the first question I'd like to ask you, if you'd please just introduce yourself, I already know your name, but for the sake of the viewers, just tell us your full name as well as, just a brief history of your career in this space. So where you started working, how did you get exposed to unionism, and how did you progress to where you are now, and so on?
I am Joseph Nkadimeng. I'm based in a beautiful town, small town of Mpumalanga called Middelburg. And I became exposed for the first time in trade unionism around the 90s, 1990. To be specific, 1993, when I was working for the Department of Education. That is the Department of Education before 94, when it became the Mpumalanga Department of Education. That is where actually I cut my teeth as a trade unionist. I did not know anything. The only thing I knew was what I was reading in newspapers about politics and unions and so on and so on. And I became interested and passionate about defending the rights of workers. And after becoming a shop steward in 1993, in 1999, I was appointed as an organizer in NEHAWU. As you know, NEHAWU is a national union, one of the biggest unions. Actually, it's the biggest union currently, biggest affiliate in COSATU, which is organizing in the public service. I continued with NEHAWU until 2007. I left NEHAWU to 2007, went back to government, because when I was in NEHAWU, I was full-time. I went back to government in the Department of Agriculture, still in our province, in Mpumalanga, and I became a labor relations officer there. Then you must understand that it was a transition now. In NEHAWU, I was representing employees, but now in the government, as a labor relations officer, I'm now representing the employer.
Yeah, you crossed the floor.
I've crossed the floor,
yeah.
sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, and I had so much passion about trade union issues. I went back to NEHAWU again because of particular trade union politics and also government politics. I went back to NEHAWU. I think it was 2009. I went back to NEHAWU until 2010. In 2010, again, because of political shenanigans in NEHAWU, which is a COSATU affiliate in alliance with the ANC. What you see in the ANC, the politics in the ANC are also reflective of what is happening in trade unions affiliated to COSATU, because it is also in the alliance with the ANC. In 2010, I left NEHAWU. Honestly speaking, I was dismissed from NEHAWU. But as I said, because of politics, I formed a trade union called BUSA, which was an independent trade union. I became the general secretary there. It was a small union which was organizing in all sectors, but what happened was that we were mainly based here in Mpumalanga. We were organizing security guards, people who are cleaning, and also people in retail. We did try to infiltrate the public service, but I think because of our sympathy to our former trade union, we stepped back and said, no, let's leave the public service, because definitely we're going to have a clash with NEHAWU, because there were already rumors that they were going to be targeted because of that. In 2015, I went back to government. Again, Department of Health now. I became a labor relations officer in the Department of Health, that is Middelburg Hospital, until this year, 2022, in May. So from June up to now, I'm on my own.
Okay.
I regard myself as a consultant. I consult on labor issues for both employees and employers. That is basically my background in the trade union movement.
The long and short of it.
But I must also add that I'm very, very passionate about this field.
Okay. Just regarding your where you stand now, where does, because when I spoke to you on the phone, you said that BUSA is no more. Or is it still? You didn't say it's no more. You said you're no longer with BUSA. So I just wanted to confirm: is BUSA still operational, and how's it going that side? Even though you're no longer part of that ship.
BUSA was deregistered in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. It was deregistered.
And
I did not have the interest to challenge the register, because I believe that I had ground to challenge.
Oh, okay. But you must have had other things going on that wouldn't take. Yeah. All right. Just let's talk about BUSA for a little bit, especially your journey in starting BUSA, because I think that'll be important just to talk about. Let's start first with saying, what is a union? You started your own union, right? You founded your own union. What is a union? Let's start there. What is a union?
Besides the legal definition in the Labor Relations Act and other legislation, union is simply an association of workers whose intention is to defend the rights of workers in the workplace, whose intention again is to make sure that workers can bargain for themselves and also pursue their agenda in their own interest. That is basically the purpose of the union, or what the union is. Yes.
So a union doesn't have to have a name. If a group of workers are working together in a workplace and they agree formally to support one another what I was saying is, a union is, a group of workers, as long as they're working in the same workplace, if they agree formally amongst themselves. When I mean formally, I don't necessarily mean anything written. But if they form relationships amongst themselves and agree to support one another in representing their interests when engaging with their employer, even if they don't call themselves an organization, even if they don't name the organization, would that still qualify as a union?
That is my understanding. But not only people who are working in the same employ, even if they are from different employers, they can be regarded as a union.
Okay. And now, what is involved in setting up your own union? Aside, okay, fine. So basically, in that answer that you just gave, you've basically also said if you want to set up a union, you can just group with people that have a like mind and sort of work out logistics of supporting one another. That's basically what it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now, on the legal side, is there any benefit? Where does the legality, if that is a union, where does the legality get in? How does the law actually get in? Because this seems like just a gentleman's agreement between friends, between colleagues, working together, wanting to support one another. Where does the law come in here?
The law comes in when it comes to what we call organizational rights, because if you are organized the way I was explaining, and your organization is not registered with the registrar of the Department of Labor, when you approach an employer, the employer can simply ignore you just because you don't have a registration certificate. There is no legal compulsion for workers to register their unions. They can organize and engage with the employer and so on and so on and so on. The only problem will be that because of these legal loopholes, the employers would refer you to the need for you to have a registration certificate before you can bargain with them, or you can bargain on behalf of your members. Another thing is that if you don't have a registration certificate, I'm talking about the legalities. If you don't have a registration certificate, even if the employer can agree to sit down with you and bargain on behalf of, and allow you to bargain on behalf of the employees or your members, you cannot be allowed to represent your members at the CCMA and even at the labor court. That is the disadvantage of not having a registration certificate. So it will be very important because of those reasons that employees who have organized themselves must definitely make sure that they get a registration certificate from the registrar of the Department of Labor.
Yeah, from my understanding of what you're saying, it seems to me like if you want to set up your own union, you don't really have much of a choice, because I mean the whole point of coming together and unionizing, right, is to be able to support one another. The support is the key. So if we can't even represent you in labor court or at the CCMA, it means there is no support really, without that certificate. So so it seems to me that the legal route is almost compulsory if you're going to be calling yourselves an organization, or if you're going to be saying you even support one another.
It's true.
When you were talking about your experience, you mentioned when you were busy running BUSA, you had sentimental feelings towards your previous union with regards to competing against it in the public sector, right? But also that you had received, let's not say warnings, but you'd received advice to say, look, don't compete with them because you will be targeted, right? Rumors, you said rumors of being targeted. Not that you'd received these warnings. You'd received sort of, information on rumors that you would be targeted.
True.
So
that is true.
I want to touch up on that because, unions operate in a space. Do unions operate in a space where competition is not welcomed? As opposed to something like companies. Companies understand the market has other companies that are welcome to enter and compete, isn't it?
Yes and no. The answer is yes and no. Just to digress, I can give you an example of AMCU. When AMCU infiltrated the mining sector, especially in Rustenburg and many other areas, there were obvious clashes or conflict between AMCU and NUM. Those conflicts were as a result of this unhealthy competition. NUM has been dominating the mining sector for a very long time. Here comes AMCU now, and AMCU eroded a large part of the NUM membership base. So it was not easy. It was not going to be easy for NUM to just allow things to happen as they did. Just to come back to the topic, I'm not afraid to tell you that when I started BUSA, with, amongst others, one of my comrades, who was also a former office bearer of NEHAWU, but who had been at that time an official of NUPSAW. NUPSAW is one of the public service unions in South Africa. It is not an affiliate of COSATU. I think it's an affiliate of VAVI, the current SAFTU federation. He had to leave SAFTU at that time. No, he had to leave NUPSAW, and we started NEHAWU, because I knew him from NEHAWU. He was also a very good friend of mine.
Oh, you mean you started BUSA?
Yeah, when I started BUSA, I was with that guy. One of the things that happened during that time, when we were busy making this application to the registrar, we got information that somebody, we are around Middelburg Wheatbank, somebody at the Wheatbank hospital, because they knew both of us, somebody at the Wheatbank hospital had used a fax to send a letter to the registrar and told the registrar that you must not give these guys a registration certificate because they are busy recruiting NEHAWU members. That is the information that we got from the office of the registrar, one of the employees or one of the officials there confided to us that there's even a letter here. They say you are recruiting NEHAWU members. They must not give you a registration certificate. You must remember again, to me, Department of Labor, you have members of NEHAWU. You also have a registrar who is possibly a NEHAWU member. The current registrar, I'm telling you, the current registrar is possibly a NEHAWU member. Because another example I will give you is that when we're busy with our audited financial statement troubles, and we were summoned to the registrar's office, I told the registrar that the way I'm so passionate about the union, I've done 1, 2, 3 more than what big unions are doing. And I also told him that I got information that this registrar's office received a letter from somebody who said that I must not be given a registration certificate before I got it. And he stopped me and said, hey, don't go there. I told him, I actually told him that I have evidence that NEHAWU is targeting us because we are from NEHAWU. He told us to stop just there, because I suspect it's because he's a member of the union. Yeah. So people are. That is why I'm saying, even ourselves, we could not continue to recruit, not because of those threats only, but because we also still interested in seeing the success of unions like NEHAWU and so on and so on.
Yeah. So basically, would you say that kind of behavior in terms of unhealthy competition, or that kind of repression of competition, coming from let's say the registrar, but on behalf of NEHAWU, if that is the case, right? Is it is it reflective of the political shenanigans you were talking about that led you to leave NEHAWU in the past, or to leave various organizations you work for? Because you mentioned two occasions where there were political shenanigans affecting your workplace and in the way that you were doing your work, and that led you to leave those organizations. Is this kind of behavior reflective of that, of those shenanigans?
Yes.
Yeah. So this happens.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
There are a lot of politics. A lot of politics in unions. I can reveal to you that as officials of unions, if you are an organizer, for example, you don't have voting rights if there's a congress. But I was once accused of mobilizing comrades against, I can tell you now, against the current Deputy General Secretary of NEHAWU. When we started in 1999 in NEHAWU, I started with this guy, Comrade December Mavuso. But when he was gunning to be a provincial secretary in the province here, I was one of the regional organizers. Just because I was talking to guys that were perceived to be belonging to a certain faction, I was accused of supporting them. And those, according to me, they can dispute that I know those were some of the reasons why I was dealt with in NEHAWU.
So factionalism, basically.
It's factionalism. There's a lot of factionalism. And you must be a yes man if you are going
to succeed.
To be a yes man. Otherwise, and yes, I can confirm that I don't have a house. I lost a house and a car because I was unemployed for 8 months, and my family suffered just because of that. Just because of that, yes. In the year 2000. Just because I was perceived to be belonging to a certain faction, they dismissed me. Well, I challenged them and went back, but I lost the house and lost yes.
Now, just touching again on your journey to set up BUSA, just briefly, without going into too much detail, what's involved in setting it up? You basically, you have to fill up paperwork, submit, just briefly, just to give an indication of the amount of work someone would have to put in to set up the legal side in terms of the paperwork and so on.
Before you approach the registrar, you must open a bank account of the union. You must ensure that you have membership application forms of people who have joined the union. You must also ensure that you have an office, and the office must have a telephone. And then you must also hold a congress. And in the minutes indicate that so and so was elected as a president. This one was elected.
Those top positions. Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. President, general secretary, and so on and so on and so on.
Treasurer and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And you must make sure that you don't make a mistake of making a president to be a full-time person, because the only full-time positions that are expected, as far as the registrar is concerned, are positions like the general secretary and the deputy general secretary. All these other positions must be what we call worker leaders. People who are leaders in the union, top positions, but they are also working wherever they are working.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of that. You know that I never knew that. So those positions are basically part-time.
Yeah, they are part-time. Actually, a part-time would be something else, because it will be like this person is supposed to be paid. No, they are not supposed to be paid. You are working wherever you are working. For example, if I'm a president of NEHAWU, I'll be working in the Department of Health. I'll be getting a salary from the Department of Health. It's like I'm released. There's an agreement between the employer and the union for my release for the next 3 years, if it's going to be 3 years. After 3 years, if I'm not re-elected, if the union does not take me permanently, I must go back to my workplace. But I'll still be receiving my salary. I'm talking about the arrangement in the public sectors. And then that is why, don't you remember that some few years back, Matunja had a problem. Matunja was told that you are full-time in the union, you don't qualify to be in that position because you are full-time. The only people who are supposed to be full-time are the General Secretary and the Deputy General Secretary.
And when they say you are full-time, they mean you are getting paid?
They mean that when you go to work, you go to the union office and you are getting paid by the union, no one else. So these others, like president and treasurer and so on, they are getting paid by their original employers, not by the union. So what happens now is that unions have found a way of compensating their office bearers. So they are giving them something.
And
anyway,
they've found ways of doing that.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that, because once it is resolved in the National Executive Committee, then it's possible to do it.
So considering the difficulty you faced with BUSA in terms of making it sustainable, well, it was sustainable, but in the current sort of environment where competition is not welcomed, how would you picture an ideal situation where, if competition was welcome between unions, how would unions compete fairly amongst one another, just based on your experience? If I'm NEHAWU, you set up BUSA, and let's say I don't employ those dirty tricks of trying to shut you down unfairly and illegally, basically, right? How would we two compete for these members? You're coming for my members. How do you attract members? Let me just finish my question. When a company enters the market and it wants to take and attract customers, it seeks to provide better value than what the current incumbents in the market provide, right? So this is where I'm going to. What kind of value would you say other unions should provide to attract workers, to attract members in order to compete?
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand your question, but before I answer it, let me clarify that I don't want to give the impression that BUSA died because there was unhealthy competition. I was just explaining that in South Africa, my experience tells me that there is an element of unhealthy competition.
My apologies for misunderstanding.
Many other reasons. Yeah, it's many other reasons, including internal squabbles within the union, because they are always there. To answer your question, the only way of let's say new kids on the block from succeeding in trade unionism is servicing the membership. When the members when they call you and say there's a problem there, you run. When they say there's a case, you represent them. When they say there's a problem, you attend to it. I can mostly tell you to me that this is exactly what I was personally doing. Everywhere where I had members, even now, when I go to these retail stores, they are still crying. They are even telling me that some of them are saying to me they are not going to join any other union. They've never had such good service like I was doing, because you see, there's a problem in South Africa. These big unions, there are so many complaints about them when you go to these employees. They complain every day about these big unions. And when you come with a new union and you tell them that this is how you work, that is why some of them, they resign from these unions and join a new union. And some of them, they don't mind having a dual membership. As long as you give them what they, you see, workers want one thing. Even while I was working in NEHAWU, some of them told me that I was one of the best organizers in NEHAWU. Workers want a person who will say, I have a problem. When can you come and see me? Then you say to the person, I'm still busy this week, I will come Monday. Then Monday you go there. They don't want a person who will say, I'll come Monday, then you go there after a year. That is why we are disgruntled.
Yeah. No,
many of them, in most of these unions, I'm telling you, in most of these big unions, there are very, 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 very serious problems.
Would you say that servicing the membership, and I think what you've described there is the core function of the union, the core service that is offered by the union, isn't it? To represent, to support, to assist, to be there and be the voice and be the administration and make sure that things are basically lighter on the union, on the worker, and the worker can focus on the job. Do you think that is fair?
That is absolutely correct what you're saying.
Yeah. So now, but now in terms of, because now if you look at what unions are also offering, and I think it's in the same spirit, other services, things like, funeral cover, things like, legal aid, let's say legal aid is still core, because that's legal assistance that you're offered in the labor courts, isn't it? So it's still core. So I'll leave that aside because you've already addressed that. But things like, I think the only other thing I've seen is funeral cover. Are those that other types of services that unions can use to entice and compete to say, hey, look, not only will we represent you, because the core function ideally is offered by every union. So if I go into the market just offering that service, but like you said, other unions they've been there for so long that they are lacking in offering the core service. So but now these other services, they are offering them to members to say, hey, come and join us. We also have funeral cover and so on. Would you say those are some of the other ways, isn't it?
Yeah, those are the add-ons, and they are also crucial. But they must not be done at the expense of the crucial service.
Yeah, the crucial service.
You see, even if you can offer them those type of services, but if you don't service them, they will either resign or don't take you. They won't take
not
you
attend
serious.
meetings, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. In one of the caucuses of NEHAWU, it was actually a consultative congress. I personally asked a question when we were busy caucusing as NEHAWU. I remember that the president was still a comrade called BUSA. I don't know where he is now. I said in that caucus, why is it that we are so passionate and vigorous when we campaign for the ANC, during elections. But when it comes to servicing of members, we are so lacking. You know what happened?
No.
That question was not answered. I was ignored. They said, next.
Yo.
Because I was asking about the servicing of members. You see, our problem, I don't want to get into politics, but our problem in COSATU affiliates is that some of our leaders don't care about membership. They want to see they want to see themselves deployed to government and parliament.
And would you say that they had that ambition going into and when they began being members, or do you think it grows over time as they gain experience in the space and move up the ladder that they start developing these? So these ambitions, do they start at the beginning or do they start during the journey?
My understanding is that there are two types. There are those who join unions because they knew very little about unions. They are joining because they want protection and so on and so on. And then when they become exposed and they are elected and they accept those positions, they become more exposed. Then the ambition starts.
So they taste
and then there
the
are
power.
those. Yes. And then there are those. For example, a person who comes from the Youth League, a person who comes from SASCO, a person who comes from these various other formations. He comes to employ or to be a worker of a particular company. He already knows about these things, and he knows that if I cannot climb the ladder through the ANC, I can use the SSCP. If I cannot use the SSCP, I can use COSATU.
Wow.
So those are the two types. Some of them go there knowing that I can go through to the top through distraction.
But then,
the way I see it.
My question then would be: is it so much of a problem if going up the structure, going up the ladder, entails that you show your quality, you do the work, you provide the value? Because then, if for you to go up the structure, you have to you have to lift the weight. Then it means that it's not so much of a problem because you're killing two birds with one stone. You are servicing the members on the one hand, and because of that, then you also get to taste and eat the power. Would you say that is a fair understanding?
Very fair. There wouldn't be so many problems if that was the attitude of our leaders.
Yeah. So
it's like saying in South Africa, if there was so much corruption, but there was adequate delivery, who was going to complain?
That is exactly my point. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, no one was going to complain because there was going to be, if there's delivery and people are corrupt, we wouldn't care.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right. So basically now, look, I've looked through a number of constitutional documents of different unions in preparation for this interview. And, which union it is not really important. But the sentiment that the current economic structure in South Africa benefits the few at the expense of the many, right? A concept that basically is based around this whole point of democratizing wealth generation, democratizing the creation of wealth. My question to you is, what is your picture from your experience in unionism? What is your picture of an ideal economic structure? And what I don't mean to, I don't need you to get like economic on me, because I'm not very well versed in that economic space. Just in layman terms, right? How would the economy work ideally in your mind?
Okay. You see, my understanding is that once you establish a union, you are not actually establishing a union in order to fight with employers. That is basically what we always tell these employers when we recruit members. Actually here to stabilize the labor relations environment. Because one of the contributions that unions could make in the workplace is to stabilize the environment. Once the environment is stabilized, it means that there will be less industrial action. There will be less absenteeism, less misconduct. And one of the ways of doing that is for employers to respect the existence of unions and also understand that, according to me, there is a need for unions. Once our positions are like that, unions and employers, once our attitudes are tuned to that type of scenario, I believe that when you look at the total picture, you'll realize that we'll be both contributing to the growth of the economy of South Africa. In my experience in BUSA, I'm not talking about NEHAWU, because NEHAWU is a big union. It had many experiences of strikes and so on and so on. In BUSA, I was emphasizing to these employees or my members that I am not going to allow this union to mislead employees into illegal industrial action. I'm going to make sure that we exhaust all the avenues before we go on strike. In my experience in the union, ever since I started the union in 2010 up to 2016, we only had one industrial action. In one of the retail stores. It was only for a few days, and the issue was resolved. Because I was emphasizing. You see, I support the question of strikes, and I understand the procedure and so on and so on and so on. But I don't support illegal industrial action, because we are putting the livelihoods of employees at stake. We are actually risking their livelihoods. I want to make, you have to make sure as a trade union official that whatever you do, you don't affect adversely the situation of the employees.
So
the employers, just lastly, the employers must not look at you as a person who wants to destroy their business, because that is the perception that they have. You see, once you go to an employer and recruit employees, their conclusion is that these people are here to destroy my business. That is not what is supposed to happen. And I believe that employers have to understand that we are in this together. It's just that in order for them to have some external monitoring, it is better for workers to have a union. Actually, I believe, to be honest with you, I was thinking of sponsoring a discussion paper which says all employees must be compelled to join unions. I know that is very strange, but I have a reason why I say so. All employees, according to me, all employees must be compelled to join unions, because there's a lot of exploitation in the workplace. Even after 28 years in democracy, there's a lot of exploitation.
So I've actually come across that idea while doing my research. I think they call it compulsory unionization or something like that. I don't know if you've heard of it like that. Because sorry?
I've not heard of it.
Yeah, because
it has always been on my mind.
Yeah, the idea, it's specific to the private sector, and it even says compulsory unionization in private companies, right?
Good idea.
Yeah. So basically, and the thing is, with private companies, it's all sizes of companies, even sort of small startups as well, and so on, which is quite an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think I support that.
Okay. So basically, my understanding is that your picture of an ideal economy is one where the unions are not fighting with the employers, and the members because the unions are the members. Would you say that the unions and the members are the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, there are no unions without members.
Yeah. So, but my question to your picture is, how does that alter, or how does that improve the status quo for the member, for the worker, for the average employee? Does that improve the status quo? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. Because actually, where there is adequate representation of members by unions, there are very minimal disruption, according to my understanding of the workplace environment. There's a less exploitation because even workers who are working there will tell you that ever since we joined the union, the employer, you see, in the past the employer has been treating us that way, but now he is treating us this way, which is much better. That is why I support the idea of this compulsory unionization. I can tell you now that some of the workplaces where I was organizing as BUSA, they've not yet joined another union because they are disgruntled with these big unions. They say they don't service members. And the employees, when I go to those retail shops or those cigarette companies, they are telling me horrible stories about the way they are being treated by their employer. That is a end of the road that is happening in the workplace.
Okay.
So compulsory unionization is very important.
I think what you're saying makes sense. Basically, you're saying that there would be more peace, right? Because if employers are not threatened by unions and they decide to work with unions, then it means the members are taken care of because the members will be represented by the unions. So the members will be happy. The employers will be happy because the members there will be less strikes, there will be less action, there will be less misconduct, there will be less of those things. And therefore the business will be safeguarded, right? So I'd just like you to elaborate, because so far you've elaborated a little bit on less exploitation. You're saying basically better treatment overall by the employer towards the employee. Am I correct? So now in terms of less exploitation, could you elaborate a bit more on that? Okay, so basically we're talking about improved relations between the employer and the members and the employees. What else? I mean, obviously the obvious one is better pay, right? They would earn more money, or they would be paid fairly, right? What else aside from better treatment in terms of relations and better pay? What is there anything else that that can be added to that list in terms of less exploitation?
Must remember, most of the time when employees are unionized, there will be what we call a recognition agreement. A recognition agreement simply entails the undertaking by the employer to say that I recognize this union as a representative employee organization of these staff members, and